Enrique Iglesias may have been born into privilege, the son of legendary singer Julio Iglesias, but his rise to fame was anything but handed to him. He refused to lean on his father's name, choosing instead to carve his own path.
Become someone else, but someone that I've always wanted to.
In the beginning, he even went so far as to disguise his identity, determined to prove he could make it on his own.
They're mainly populated by Latinos.
Yeah.
And it was bound to pop sooner or later. Whether your music, it doesn't even come down to the music, it comes down to the culture.
Enrique Iglesias entered the world on May 8, 1975, in Madrid, Spain. Born Enrique Miguel Iglesias Preisler. He was the youngest of 3 children, but his bloodline carried weight. His father was Julio Iglesias, Spain's most celebrated singer, and his mother, Isabel Preisler, a glamorous socialite who commanded attention in Madrid's elite circles. But his childhood would be shaken by fear and uncertainty. After the shocking kidnapping of his grandfather, Enrique's life took a sudden turn. For his safety, he was sent across the ocean to Miami, placed under the care of his famous father.
My grandfather was kidnapped when I was 6 years old, 7 years old. And from there on, it changed my life completely. And my mom took us to Miami, to the U.S.
Yet, Julio's life was consumed by endless tours and performances, leaving little time for the boy who needed him most. Instead, Enrique found stability in someone unexpected, his nanny, Elvira Olivares. She became more than a caretaker. She was his anchor. Years later, when he finally stepped into the spotlight with his debut album, Enrique made sure the world knew where his gratitude belonged. He dedicated it to her.
Took care of my whole family. Like growing up, she's like part of the family.
By the time Enrique hit his teenage years, the pull of music was already in his blood. At Miami's elite Gulliver Private School, he stepped onto the stage for the very first time in a production of Hello Dolly, a small taste of what was to come.
Even asking, just by watching my father.
Not to let it get into your head.
Yes.
But what no one knew, not even his parents, was that Enrique was quietly carving out his own path. With a handful of friends, he began writing and performing songs in little Miami restaurants, hidden away from the shadow of his father's fame.
I just surround myself with friends. I like to take them on the road when they're going to be able to see the fun stuff. And for me, the fun stuff, of course, is the concerts. On our way to Dallas.
To him, these moments weren't about chasing stardom. They were about to escape.
Music to me was like my little getaway. I was a very shy kid. So what I used to do is lock myself up in my room and just write music, lyrics.
It's not like I was looking for a record deal then, he would later confess. I did it because I loved it.
I was just attracted to music. Music was really the only way I knew how to express myself. I just knew I loved it.
I like making music, period. And that's also, I don't want to do music right now just because you have a label deal and you got to turn in a certain amount of songs.
I never told anyone. For me, it was a getaway to sing, something I didn't want anyone to screw up. Still, his double life couldn't last forever. After finishing high school, Enrique enrolled at the University of Miami, planning to study business. It seemed safe, predictable, a future far from the stage lights. But the music wouldn't let him go.
I was 100% sure that I wanted to leave college to pursue music. But you know, there's always those doubts.
The more he tried to push it aside, the louder it called. And after only a year, he made the choice that would change everything. He dropped out. Intent on making it without the weight of his father's name, Enrique decided to take the most dangerous path he could, one that stripped away every advantage he had been born with. He became Enrique Martinez, an unknown artist with nothing but his voice and a dream. It was a bold disguise, meant to test the only thing that mattered, the music.
I wanted to see how record companies would react just based on music, without having any other thing they could think about.
He knew the odds were against him. Record labels were brutal, dismissing hopefuls with a single listen. And Latin pop had not yet broken through the mainstream in a meaningful way, but Enrique refused to let that stop him. Quietly, almost in secret, he began recording a demo tape. It was bare bones. 3 songs, 1 in Spanish, 2 in English, but it carried the fire of someone who had something to prove.
Nunca te olvidaré. ¿Dónde está mi corazón?
What was the song that did it for you?
It was 2 songs. It was 1 song in English, one called Only One Night, and another one called Si Tu Te Vas.
The money for that demo didn't come from wealth or family connections. It came from the one person who had always stood by him, the woman who had practically raised him, his nanny Elvira Olivares. She lent him the funds, trusting that the boy she once cradled would turn his dream into something real. It was a debt Enrique carried heavily, one that pushed him to work even harder. In 1995, the payoff came. After countless rejections and endless waiting, Enrique signed his first record deal. Suddenly, the door to the industry swung open.
I ended up getting rejected by about like 2 or 3 labels, and then got picked up by a label called Fonovisa, based out of Mexico.
Later that year, his self-titled debut album hit the shelves. A moment of truth. Would anyone even care? Or would it vanish into obscurity like so many first efforts? The answer was swift and explosive. In Portugal, the album went gold in just 7 days. 7! By the time the dust settled, sales had eclipsed 6 million copies worldwide. For a young man who had once sung quietly in Miami restaurants, it was almost unthinkable. He wasn't just entering the music scene, he was taking it by storm. And recognition followed in waves. By 1996, Enrique was no longer just a promising newcomer. He was a phenomenon. He earned a Grammy for Best Latin Performer, Billboard crowned him both Artist of the Year and Album of the Year, and the American Music Awards handed him 2 trophies, sealing his arrival as a legitimate force in pop music.
Enrique Iglesias.
Thank you so much. I never thought I'd win an American Music Award for singing in Spanish.
By 1997, Enrique was no longer the shy teenager hiding his voice from his parents. He was now a global force. His second album, Vivir, exploded onto the scene, selling more than 5 million copies. For the first time, Enrique stepped into the daunting arena of a world tour, taking his voice across continents and proving he could captivate audiences far beyond Latin America. Stadiums filled, crowds screamed, and critics who once doubted him began to realize he wasn't going away. But the true turning point came 2 years later, 1999. A single song would propel Enrique into the stratosphere. Bailamos, We Dance. Infectious, irresistible, and undeniably global. The track didn't just climb the US charts, it conquered them, landing at number 1. Hollywood came calling, and the song was placed front and center in Wild Wild West, the blockbuster film starring Will Smith. Suddenly, Enrique wasn't just a Latin pop sensation. He was a crossover star, a household name in America. And then came the gamble that changed everything. In 2000, Enrique released his first all-English album, simply titled Enrique. With hits like Rhythm Divine and Be With You, the record silenced every critic who claimed he could never break the English language market. He hadn't just broken in, he'd smashed the door wide open. But what followed would eclipse even that success. In 2001, Enrique released what would become the defining album of his career, Escape. Unlike his earlier records, Enrique poured himself into the songwriting, co-writing much of the album. The result was a juggernaut. The singles, Escape, Maybe, Don't Turn Off the Lights, and most hauntingly, Hero,
I can be your hero, baby.
became anthems of a generation.
I wrote Hero about a year and a half ago. It's probably the most sincere song I've written in English.
Hero in particular transformed him from pop star to icon, a ballad so powerful it became entwined with moments of love, loss, and even tragedy in the lives of millions who heard it. With Escape, Enrique had not just arrived, he had ascended. The momentum carried forward. In 2003, he dropped 7, an album that leaned heavier on rock influences.
Yeah, actually I've had 3 albums in English and 4 in Spanish. That's why this is my 7th album.
4 years later, he returned with Insomniac, showcasing a darker, edgier sound, including the fan favorite Push.
Then came Euphoria in 2010, an ambitious bilingual album that bridged both of his worlds. With singles like I Like It and Ayer, Enrique proved that he could thrive in both English and Spanish markets, effortlessly switching between them.
But Enrique wasn't finished rewriting the rules. In 2014, he released Sex and Love, an album that cemented his reign in the modern era. With club-ready singles like I'm a Freak featuring Pitbull and the global phenomenon Bailando, the album didn't just dominate the Latin charts, it stormed into the top 10 of the Billboard 200. Nearly 2 decades after his debut, Enrique Iglesias was still defying time, still bending genres, still ruling stages worldwide. The years following his domination of the early 2010s saw Enrique pivot into powerful collaborations, each one expanding his reach into new corners of the music world. In 2015, he joined forces with Nicky Jam for El Perdón, a track that became an international anthem of heartbreak and forgiveness. The next year, he teamed up with Wisin on Duele el Corazón, a pulsating hit that stormed charts across Latin America and beyond. And in 2018, he showed no signs of slowing, partnering with Bad Bunny on El Baño, a steamy trap-infused track, before reuniting with longtime collaborator Pitbull for Move to Miami. She gon' make you move to Miami. She gon' make you move. By now, Enrique's place in history was undeniable. He wasn't just Julio Iglesias' son anymore. He was a giant in his own right, a man Billboard would crown both the king of Latin pop and the king of dance. It was recognition that his career had transcended borders, languages, and generations. But behind the lights and accolades, Enrique's personal story carried its own quiet drama. In 2003, he underwent surgery to remove a mole on the right side of his face.
So I was just laying there and the guy's cutting it. And his assistant goes, well, my wife likes it. Maybe you shouldn't remove it. And it was halfway off. I'm like, stop! Yeah. I'm like, stop.
On the surface, it seemed like a small procedure. But for Enrique, it was a decision weighed with concern. Doctors feared the mole could eventually become cancerous, and Enrique wasn't willing to take that risk.
But it was because it might be cancerous at some point?
I don't know, it just caught me on one of those days where I had nothing to do.
He emerged from the surgery healthy and more determined than ever to keep his focus on the future. 2 years earlier, though, fate had already set his personal life on an entirely new course. In 2001, Enrique filmed the music video for Escape, a fiery ballad of love and desire. Cast opposite him was a striking Russian tennis star, Anna Kournikova. Their chemistry was undeniable, and what began on screen quickly blossomed into real life.
I lied to people and I told people that I actually met my girlfriend before because I don't want to tell them that I met my girlfriend on set.
Unlike many celebrity couples, Enrique and Anna chose silence over spectacle. They kept their romance out of the tabloids, dodging the spotlight whenever possible. Fans speculated endlessly. Were they engaged, married in secret? No one knew for sure. What the world did know, however, was that their bond was unshakable.
I want my personal life to be as private as possible, and especially when you're with someone that is also known and in the spotlight.
But how hard is that?
Yeah, but it's not that tough.
Then, in December 2017, the couple stunned everyone. Without warning, Anna had given birth to fraternal twins, Nicholas and Lucy. The secrecy only deepened their mystique.
It feels incredible. It's one of the best feelings in the world.
And just as the world was catching up, they expanded their family again in January 2020, welcoming a daughter, Mary. Enrique, once the restless young star searching for escape in music, had quietly built a family of his own.
Would you like your little ones to do the same? If they wanted to be entertainers, would you be here for it?
I'd be cool with that. I want them to do whatever is going to make them happy.
Physically, he remained every bit a heartthrob, tall, effortlessly handsome, carrying a cool, understated charisma that set him apart from his father's old-world charm. Yet, whispers persisted, rumors that father and son were not close. But Julio Iglesias, for his part, never wavered in his pride. What has happened to him is sensational, Julio once said. Parents hope for great things for their children, but how do you imagine such success? Today, Enrique Iglesias stands at 50 years old with a net worth that surpasses $100 million. But the numbers only tell part of the story. For Enrique, music has never just been about fame or fortune. It's been a way to escape, to connect, to live beyond the boundaries of expectation. And if his past is any indication, the so-called king of Latin pop isn't anywhere near finished. He's still out there, always ready to bring the heat.